Okay.
Hi, I'm Jody. I'm a member of the Madison Mobilization Missions team, and we have the opportunity to meet with our missionaries over Zoom and record them, no matter where in the world they are. So we are so happy for that opportunity to use Zoom and technology. So today we are talking to Henry and Laura Pritchard. They are currently in Monrovia, Liberia. They're one of our newest missionaries, longtime members of Madison, and we get to hear from them. And they moved to Monrovia just
March 6th, we were
March
here.
6th, just a week or so before. Oh gosh, so you barely touched the ground, and then you guys are in quarantine. So you didn't even have a chance to get started in ministry, really, then.
No.
And all right, well, we would love to hear then what does life look like in the midst of a pandemic in Monrovia, and how is God really showing up for you guys and leading you in that?
Well, of course, like you said, it's been kind of, lonely is not a good word, but certainly isolated. So I haven't been able to do the work that I thought I would be doing at Providence, at least to the extent I thought I would. Henry has not been able to go to the farm like he thought. You went once, right?
Yeah, one day.
So once to the farm so far. So our formal work has been limited at best. However, as a staff, we have at Providence Baptist Church, our senior staff has been meeting. We stayed off for about 3 or 4 weeks, but then we resumed our senior staff meetings. We have been responsible to stay in contact with certain groups of members of the church, and so we support each other that way. We go to the church to record our Sunday services, so we still record, and they are shown on Facebook and other places. When I first arrived, I think the lockdown, I think we had 2 weeks, and then there was the lockdown. And so Pastor Sam and I were talking, and I said, well, and I live right down the road from Pastor Sam. So I could walk to his house, and we actually did our first worship services at his table in his living room, where we had a kind of conversation around scripture. So, and that was kind of, Pastor Sam was calling me the new kid on the block. So I kind of he kind of threw me in the deep end of the water, because the first 2 weeks it was he and I, and then I think the next 2 weeks he said, Laura, you're preaching. So I preached from my home 2 weeks. And then there, I think was Easter, and then I think another week or two I preached as well. So I've been dropped in the deep end, and able to minister the word, and able to really feel a part of the work of Providence, even in the midst of a pandemic. So in that regard, connecting to the staff, connecting to the church virtually has been pretty good. And then also my work with our sister church initiative, that's the primary focus of my work. Actually, we're starting to move ahead with that again. Next year, 2021, marks the 200-year anniversary for Providence Baptist Church.
Oh, wow.
Which also marks 200 years since the first boat left the States, African Americans coming to Liberia. So there's like this combination bicentennial celebration for the nation and for Providence. And so what we've decided to do is to host like a return home for African Americans, and invite African Americans in the diaspora to come to Liberia, kind of like Ghana did in 2019. So I have the pleasure of working with like 14 very motivated young people here who are studying the history of Liberia, the history of Providence Baptist Church, and we're working on this, what we're going to call a historical tour presentation of Providence Baptist and of Liberia, that actually connects back to the African American experience in the States. This is also kind of calling me to a new version of the work that I was doing in the States, because we have to have some pretty difficult conversations about how the Americo-Liberians, the settlers, actually came in and became the ruling party, if you will, the ruling group in this new country. And so we're dealing with issues of justice and oppression, historical oppression, and how do we address it now? Calling Providence to be an agent of healing in a nation that has a hard time remembering the history that led up to the war. So I feel like God has prepared me in my work at Madison to do a similar work here at Providence. And I've got a motivated group of young people who want to have honest conversations and who want to be about telling the whole story, and also creating a space for reconciliation and a space for diversity at Providence. So that's very, very exciting. We, July 26th is Liberian Independence Day. And so we're going to be hosting a play, a drama that actually the members of this group are writing about the history of Liberia and the connected history to Providence Baptist Church. And we hope to present that on Sunday, July 26th on Providence Island. And Providence Island is the place where the settlers landed. So the ministry goes on in the midst of the pandemic. I mean, there's a 6 p.m. curfew. So your movement is limited. There's, even when we're gonna start church the first Sunday in August. And when folks come in, everybody has to wear a mask. We have washing stations at the door, sanitizing stations at the door. And we also have seating arrangements for how people can be situated once they come into the sanctuary. We'll have a sanctuary location overflow and then a waiting area if both spaces are full. So we're trying to move ahead with church and move ahead with our plans for next year and continue to minister to people. Providence got 225 kgs of rice to distribute to folks. And it was a blessing to be able to have that rice and give it to folks who might not have that need met in a time like COVID. Because COVID affects a lot of people's livelihood and just ability to get food, because actually there's a rice crisis right now. I will say the other thing that's happened though is, Henry and I, there's a lot of kids that live around our fence. And every time I come home, all the little kids say, "Hey grandma, hey grandpa, hey grandma, hey grandpa." And so we've got these children. There's a sister in Christ. We got our tutor from her because she brings in this tutor who's a pastor to work with the kids. So I thought, okay, she's highly motivated. She loves Jesus, and we got a lot of kids. She got a lot of kids, and so do the other neighbors. So I said to her on Friday, "What do you think if we would have like a Bible club for?" She said, "Yes, let's do it." "And should we do it every day?" I said, "Oh, no, I can't do it every day." So we're gonna do it once a week. And she, and then the young lady who lives with her, she says she's a great Bible teacher. So we're gonna meet on Monday and talk about how to set up this space where we have Bible class with the kids in our little community, which probably could equal to probably about 10 to 15 kids easy. So that's something that we're trying to do in the midst of COVID. That wasn't in my ministry plan, but it's a ministry opportunity nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. We see that God is working through the pandemic anyway. And so that was one of my questions, how is God working through this? How is he opening up new ministry opportunities through the pandemic? So definitely that's an answer to that.
When we came on March 6th, usually the farming season in Liberia, it started from January, February, like that. People started to prepare the farm for planting. But when we got here, the pandemic, it closed everything. There was no movement. First of all, I could not go in the village. There was no car, nothing. Then another thing that happened, I packed my seeds, in fact, trying to get my seeds from...
So his seeds were in the States?
Yeah, my seeds were in the States. Then when the guy ordered it, when the fellow ordered my seeds, it came late, so I could not bring my seeds along. Mm-hmm. I left a message at the house that when it comes, because we're expecting people, the following Sunday when we came, we thought people were coming in, but then they could not come in because they closed they closed everything down. They closed everything down, so I could not start doing anything. And when I came, it was very late. I could not batch anything to start anything. And another thing, the rainy season started in April. Now, as we speak now, it is raining. Yeah, it's raining here heavy. You cannot do anything. When Laura and I, we decided, because to where we live like on the beach, and there is lots of sand. I have been thinking, oh, what can we really do to help the little kids around here, how to teach them, because there's no school now. So Laura and I, we have been thinking what to do with them, because now I cannot go on the farm. It is raining, I cannot plant anything. But however, when I came, I decided to get me few chicken. Yeah, few chicken that I can grow and try to have the egg incubated, and we ourselves can consume some. But then Laura did not like the idea, because she said chicken cannot live with us in the yard.
But they're here.
Yeah, they are here, and they are doing fine. But presently, it is raining, and I just cannot do anything on the farm. But the blessed thing, while people fighting for rice to buy imported rice, we are eating our own rice from Liberia.
Yes.
Yeah, while I was in the States, I tried to make some farm here, and we are eating the rice. We are not eating imported rice.
Exactly. So Henry, when we were here in November, went and worked on the farm, and they planted the rice.
Yeah, right.
So Henry, when we got here, he was at least able to make a trip to the farm to harvest what they call the country rice. So we've been eating country rice and cassava from Henry's farm in the village. So we're very thankful for that. The other thing I want to say about the sand is Henry has tried to grow, sunflowers. The first problem with the sunflowers is that the geckos were eating them. And I'll take pictures and send them, but Henry took these, he found cylinders somewhere. I said, Henry, I'm gonna take pictures of all of Henry's innovations, because they are quite innovative. So he built these cylinders around the sunflowers so the geckos would stop eating them. But they didn't grow, they were in sand. And he's repeatedly tried to grow stuff, but the sand will not allow it. So he went to the village. When he went to the village, he also brought back dirt and was able to plant some peppers and then take them to another family location. So we're trying to figure it out. But the other thing is that we're trying to do, what we want to do with the kids around here is build a raised bed and let them grow their own produce. So in addition to our Bible class, let them begin to put their little fingers to work and grow stuff that their families can eat, and begin to talk about how what they need is in their hands and at their feet, and do that right here, right now with the kids.
That's awesome. Henry, that's what we love about you. You're always thinking about you. If you come up against a barrier, you're just gonna go around it. What else can you do? So I love that. I think that's a great idea, teaching the kids the planting, because there's so many ways you can teach them about God through that too.
Yes. Let us say this, you guys sent money for us to be a blessing to other people. So when you talk about that, we probably in June, we gave bags of rice to all of our neighbors. And then Henry said, let's not spend it all at one time, which his wife was like, ready to, let's just do this thing. But he said, people are gonna get hungry again. Yeah. So let's save that money. And like right now, while rice is $20 a bag, we can feed people again. Yeah. And so yes, the food is a problem. Getting food, having money, being able to go out and make money to buy your food is a problem. And so one of the ways that we want to help is to buy a 25 kg bag of rice for folks. For their families.
And actually, I one of those that I don't believe always giving people something. they themselves have to be involved, how to make something for themselves.
Yes. So Henry said to me, instead of us just giving it, what can people do
Yeah.
so that they do, so maybe we all clean out there's a lot of trash around our area. If we all get together and clean, and then at the end of the day, everybody gets rice.
Those are some of the things I'm telling Laura that we shouldn't just continue to give. If they need cassava, we have to start working for them to get some cassava greens and what have you.
I think that's a really good point, is you want to empower the people around
Yeah.
you. How can we be praying for you?
I think we're at a point where he might be able to move back and forth to the village, and we're hoping to find a truck for him because he and his counterparts keep saying you got to have a truck to be able to bring all the stuff back. So pray for a truck, and even just the ability to go back and forth to the village safely, safe from COVID, and just safe on the highway. I think that's one thing. Pray for continued good health. Pray for our family. Henry's nephew Samuel is preparing to get married, and so that means our household is going to get a little bigger. His wife and her daughter will come and live with us, so pray for that as we make that adjustment. We love Ruth is her name, and so we're anticipating that. Pray that we figure out how to maneuver Henry's status and the length of time that he can be out of the States in the midst of COVID. So I think we're gonna sign up for the next plane for Henry to come back so he doesn't miss his 6 month mark. So pray this for transportation for that. I'm trying to stay in here with Blessing to get her ready for college, wherever that might be. And so Henry will go home, but I'll stay here through August, September, and hopefully maybe I can come home in October. Yeah, so for wisdom on how to plan, like how to, when do we go, when do we come, can we go, can we come? Yeah, and just for ministry at Providence, just that I continue to gain clarity. And I'm also thankful for the people, the Liberians that I'm meeting who have a heart for the diaspora and a heart for this unity building work that I believe God has called me to. I'm just being connected with folks who have the same passion. It is amazing. It's amazing. So I'm thankful for that, and I pray that God will continue to clarify the call and continue to make room for the call.
Laura, it's been really good to hear that, just to see a little bit of the connection of what you're doing with racial reconciliation here and how God has equipped you for that, to do that in Liberia, Monrovia. So thanks for sharing. Yeah, Henry, we always love hearing how you're working and finding things to put together.
Yeah.
We love that. Oh gosh. Practical blessing to those around you.
When you just said that, you made me think of something else. I think I'm also working to find my voice. To talk about reconciliation in this environment it's kind of different than in the States because it's all Black folk. Yeah. And so it's a whole different dynamic. And in many ways, the conversation is not as easy. And there's a whole lot of history of oppression that it's just hard. But I have found one sister, she's actually in the States, but she's Liberian, and she has become one of my biggest cheerleaders. And she's walking with me and she's holding my hand and she's letting me know I'm not crazy. Because for a minute I thought maybe I'm just not seeing things correctly. And she sent me like this article that she wrote, and I was like, yes. And so God has even granted me somebody to walk alongside, actually to kind of lead, to go ahead of me and say, look, this is the way, and I can help you maneuver these spaces with my people. And she has a lot of favor, and but she's also a truth teller and a Jesus lover. And I'm just very, very thankful for her. And God is using her to alleviate some of my fear, my apprehension, and also assuring me to trust my voice in the midst of what I think in some spaces will be difficult. So
I was wondering too, if you had other people kind of around you in this, because it's pretty much, it's pioneering, right?
Yes.
It's
yes.
not many people are talking about this over there, I'm sure.
The beauty of what's happening in the States, of course, is sparking conversation all over the world, right? And so that conversation is happening here as well. And so thank God for the response to that. So it's sparking some interesting dynamics over here, for which, again, I'm very thankful for what God is doing. And I know that the time that we're here is the right, it's right.
Amen.
One thing I know, a lot of, before we came, Liberians were telling us, and especially me, don't go, don't go. It's gonna be too hard.
Yeah.
Liberia is a hard place. Why don't you just stay in the States? I don't think you should do this. And I can tell you with a surety, even in spite of difficult days, the solar power blew, and the solar power pumps the water into the house, and there was no water, and the propane was gone from the stove, and we couldn't cook from the stove. And it was just one of those days. And we cooked from the coal pot, and we used the solar power. And there was the one day when I had my last morsels of pecans. And I took my pecans, the last, because you can't find them anywhere here. I was like, this is my last little bit. And I poured the pecans from the bag into my oatmeal that I was ready to eat. And a roach came running out that bag of pecans on my oatmeal. And I said, Lord have mercy, I cannot. And so even in days like that, I am so sure. I have so much peace in the midst of all of sickness, in the midst of all of this. I know God has called us to this place. And so we're in the right place.
Yeah, and in fact, up to now, some friends meet me and they don't believe that I just came. People tell me coming to Liberia such a time. I mean, it's like I'm crazy.
So they think he was either deported or he's depraved for coming back home.
It looks crazy to the eyes of this world, doesn't it? Well, it's good that you have the assurance you can go back on when you have those days. Oh dear. Well, Henry and Laura, thank you so much for taking time and sharing with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.